Hello, Professor Nguyen and History 86 class. My name is Jerry P. Bautista, and this will be my Module 7 History Matters project. Um, I'll be talking about Chapter 11 within Module 7, where Professor Nguyen talks about a broad amount of topics about Asia, basic Asia in general. Um, as I recall, this was his most favorite chapter that he talked about, but also at the same time his least favorite chapter that he talked about, because there was a lot of good things that he liked about it and then a lot of bad things. Besides that, I'll be explaining about two things that um, he mentioned in his lecture. Two topics were, one, I'll be talking about the Mongolian imperialism, and two, I'll be talking about the Kama Sutra. And then what I'll be comparing Mongolian imperialism to is this. Some of you may get it at first, and some of you may not. It wasn't really a bright idea of mine, but um, basically, I'm talking about the Japanese imperialism flag, which was known as the Rising Sun. I'll be comparing the Mongolian imperialism, which happened around the 1200s, and Japanese imperialism, which happened around the 1800s, because they both relate because they're both in history. Now, for the Kama Sutra, I'll be comparing it to the Bible, because the Kama Sutra and the Bible both have similar values, where they both explain about life in general, basically, like life's essentials and lifestyles, etc. So to start off, I'll be talking about Mongolia. So Mongolia around the 1200s, they were um, an imperialistic country where they took over a lot of East Asian countries, South Asian countries, and basically Eurasia, and basically parts of Russia. Um, the reason why this is a big thing, because also Japan, just like Mongolia, were very developed countries back in history. Um, and Japan, not so longer later on, and around the 1800s, which was just about like 600 or so years later, where they were an imperialistic country and they took over lots of parts of Southeast Asia, South Asia, and basically like a lot of parts of Asia, just like how Mongolia did in the 1200s. Bringing up that point, these countries developed really early, and the irony of that now is that these two countries are now really downsized, where Mongolia is in between China and Russia, and then Japan is just its own island. And then the irony of where some small countries became big, like a good example is us here in the United States, us as Americans. Us here in America, we started off as like there were Native Americans that didn't claim this land, and then the Europeans came in and then they claimed this land. They made colonies, and then these were small colonies that gradually developed and became really big over time. And then, as of now in 2020, we have an entire chunk of land that is considered the United States, and a lot of other countries sees this as an imperialistic country, and even now in Russia too. Russia became a very big country, where it was a big country during the USSR times, when communism and like part of like Vladimir Putin and all that, but like it wasn't really united in a way, because there was a lot of poverty and then a lot of corruption. But now it has turned into a unified big country as Russia, where they have unification, and things are basically running better now. The economy and government system is starting to become less and less corrupt. Now, that's finishing off a comparison between history of the 1200s of Mongolian imperialism and the history of Japan's imperialism in the 1800s, and then basically comparing it to now, which is the United States so-called imperialism and so-called Russia's imperialism. Now I'll be talking about the Kama Sutra. Professor Nguyen talks about the Kama Sutra where it gives a lot of advice about life, where um, specifically he talked about sex and erotica, how to have sex and how to um, do it, how to like perform it, and also it wasn't only limited to that. The Kama Sutra also talked about, according to Professor Nguyen, the Kama Sutra also talked about life advice, life essentials such as how to host a party, how to groom yourself for men and women, basically. And a similar prop that I'll be using is the Holy Bible. I know I've used this in recent videos, but I'll be using this again because um, it's really similar to the Kama Sutra because it gives a lot of advice and life guidance, but more religiously. Basically, like, I'm not gonna really get religious, but Proverbs is one of the books in the Bible where it compares to now, like the golden rule: treat others as you would like to treat yourself. Um, Basically, um, all the sayings and basically everything that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, for example. Basically, um, it originated from the Bible in a way because there's a lot of morals and values and proverbs in the Bible that are used today, but less religious and not really focusing toward like God, so people can follow these morals and values without having to have religious compensation. They have to like follow God because they're thinking about this. But besides that, basically, the Kama Sutra and the Bible, they both give life advice and spiritual advice, and also even the Bible and the Kama Sutra, they both talk about sex because the Bible, it talks about sexual morality and what's good about sex between a man and a woman. And then the Kama Sutra talks about sex between basically how you're supposed to perform it and erotica. Um, and also life advice, as I said earlier. The Kama Sutra has how to start parties, how to host them, and then the Bible gives you life advice on what path you should take, what you should do, how to be a good person, and how to be a good believer in God. So basically, that's it. Thank you for watching this video, and you guys have a good day.